Welcome, everybody, to the American Roulette podcast. I'm Matthew Best, one of the authors, and I am joined today by Pat LaMarche, also one of the other authors, and Robert Bradshaw, one of the other authors. And
Oh,
we do this regular podcast interview conversation because we want to give people a little bit of insight into the authors, what was going through our minds, the characters that we have, the reasons why we do this. So, this is our opportunity to spend a little bit of time with you and open ourselves up to that. So, Pat, first of all, welcome. And it's nice that you're not traveling this time. I'm sure
oh
that's
my God. Yes, I was supposed to tape this out in my car. I'm sorry, I
right.
forgot.
That's right. So, we're going to do this a little bit different. Normally, we start asking the one of our other authors, which character did you have? But Robert is a little bit of a different type of situation. So a little bit of setup, I think. And I think it would be great if you could, since you're the one who kind of roped Robert into this, give a little background on that.
Well, for people who haven't seen the other episodes yet, this was an idea Matthew had. He brought it to me. He wanted to write the background of people who were going to meet in a cataclysmic event of a mass shooting and kind of emphasize the humanity. And I said, that's great, but that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Just so like, how long will this take? And so I said, maybe we could get writers to write each character. So then you, Matthew, you brought in some character, some
Uh-huh.
author brought in some, and you brought in a person who ended up not being able to do it.
Right.
And so we were down a person. And meanwhile, back at the publishing house, Robert Bradshaw and I were working on a project of his. Ronnie the Rain Cloud takes his first trip, which is a really sweet little children's book about a rain cloud who has an existential crisis when he realizes nobody likes the rain.
We're talking about extreme ends of the spectrum here. We got it
So
all
I
covered, right?
went,
Exactly.
I went to meet with him, which generally involves a lovely little restaurant downtown. He's the best person in the world to have to meet on a regular basis. And I said, I saw a picture of you on Facebook of you doing a press conference or something. What do you do? Because I didn't know him as anything but this guy who writes sweet little kid stories.
Right.
Right. And when he told me what he did, I was like, "Oh, so what do you do, Robert Bradshaw?"
Well, I am a crisis management consultant, right? And the word crises means different things to different people. My wife is a social worker and she handles personal crises on a day-to-day basis. The crises I handle are a bit bigger, like terrorism, like like nuclear meltdowns. Um,
Meaning
and
real nuclear power meltdown stuff.
yes,
Right.
yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Um, and so the press conference that you saw the pictures of on social media were me doing a press conference at a university talking about it, active shooter training that we were doing. And that's when you said, "Hey, I think I got something that you would be interested in."
Yeah. I'm like, hey, put that rain cloud down for a minute.
Yeah.
Uh,
Right.
but it was unbelievable at the time that we lost an author, right? And that author was really important. We try to do these little 20-minute episodes without telling you too much about the book because we don't want to spoil it for you. But suffice to say that we had to have one highly technical person who was going to be a professional witness to the event so that the event could be told. And that was this woman who was going to be our author was going to write. Somebody worked at like a GameStop who was really good at tech stuff, who was going to live stream what was going on. That was the plan for the book. Then we lost that author. Literally 24 hours later, we chatted with Robert about his talent for crisis management. And he started saying things like, well, this is going to happen to a mall. Who's going to go to the mall security office? And I said, there's a
Right.
mall security office. And he said, of course there's a mall security office. And I thought, I think you're the guy. I think you're the guy we need. And so we asked you, Robert, if you would participate. What did you think when we asked you, want to help us write this?
Well, it's interesting because at least my perception was that that role evolved, maybe evolved pretty quickly. But initially, I thought, okay, they're asking me to come in and be a technical advisor. I do consulting all the time. I can consult on what a crime scene looks like and what the aftermath of an event like this might be. So I wasn't intimidated at all. But then as we talked and team members had some suggestions, they said, well, maybe you should write the epilogue to the book. What happens after one of these events? What does that look like? The witness, that you've referred to. And then all of a sudden I realized, wow, I hope I'm up to this challenge because this is a bunch of very talented, experienced writers. And, I'm being invited in here. I better be able to live up to their expectations. So there was a little bit of dread involved there in the beginning.
Dread. We like to inflict dread.
Yeah.
But you, and then you, so you agreed to the epilogue, and then we said, well, no, actually, we need him as the prologue too. So we just kept hooking you up with new tasks.
Right.
In addition to, so Stephen Bradley is your character, and he is at the beginning of the book. He's how the book begins, and he's how the book ends. And all in the center of it is the rest of us are writing these characters and what's happening to them during their day. So we had you on all the Zoom calls, making sure our characters would be in the right place, AKA what's happening in the security office or this or that. And then on top of that, you had the beginning and the setup and the wrap up. So you ended up with, from being a guy who didn't even know he was going to be part of this book.
Right. Came into the party a little late.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and in that case too, also you were kind of the last character to be written because you
Yes.
had to know what was going on in order to be able to have those kind of bookends in there. I'm
Exactly.
wondering, Robert, how you felt as you were writing your character, Stephen.
It was interesting, and again, I won't, share too much of the specific details, but Stephen is a crisis management consultant, right? So, there's a little bit of me in there, but I was actually shocked at the ease with which the character came to life to me and the scenes that developed. And after I had written them, I thought, where the heck did that come from? Right? How
Yeah,
did that
right,
happen?
right.
But I think it is, I've spent 30 or 40 years of my life in this world, and I've met a lot of characters, and Stephen is kind of a composite of some of the characters that I've met, and some of the secondary characters that I wrote in there to support Stephen um, come from that experience. And, I think it's fair to say, Matt and Pat, that we use Stephen as we introduce the character at the beginning of the book to highlight what's to come.
Mhm.
He lets you know that there's a tragedy on the way.
Right.
And through his eyes, you meet and hear the concerns of a broader constituency beyond just the victim and the victim families, right? The broader community that's impacted by one of these events. So we use Stephen as sort of the sounding board to introduce us to some of the broader impacts of a mass shooting event like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a couple of things that you articulated to us and then pulled off in the book was you really wanted to well, one of my favorite lines is very early in the book, so I'm not going to be ruining anything, I don't think, but it's when he's watching, he's standing in the airport at the very beginning of the book, and he's watching the chief of police have to give the press conference at the very beginning. They don't know anything yet. They don't know what's happened. They don't have any answers, but he knows it's his community. He knows it. He knows that his own his own police officers were in there. He doesn't have answers, but he's worried. And you say, "Oh my God, is this guy going to get through this?" You know, your character's looking at the chief of police saying, "No," and that's not a person I generally watch in a press conference and worry about.
Right.
And just that little bit of insight to, man, this is a lot. This is a lot to put anybody through. And even someone who's allegedly prepared for something like this is not prepared for it at all.
Right. And I think we see bits and pieces of that as well later in the book. I mean, one of the things important to me, I deal with first responders all the time, police, fire, and emergency medical technicians. They're victims of these events as well.
Yeah.
You don't go through, a dramatic event like that and not be impacted by it. So one of the things I wanted to accomplish is to highlight the fact that the police themselves are really impacted by these events on a personal level.
Yeah. And
I
just
know you did a beautiful
imagine
preface.
that, these, we're writing about one event, and these are folks who go through stuff a lot, right? And that's got to just build up in there. And I think you did a beautiful job with telling that story in there. I wanted to ask you, what was the most surprising part of the writing process of this entire kind of project for you?
Yeah, well, I said one of the surprises was how quickly and easily the story came to me. But I think the other part of it was in working with this team of writers, um, what a unique concept and experience it was, the way we approached the book with multiple authors, um, and how in the end it seamlessly came together, where we wove all of the characters together. I think it was a masterful job by not only the writers but the editors to pull that off and accomplish it. So to me, that was a pleasant surprise and kind of an amazing accomplishment.
Yeah, I was just reading, I think one of you today sent out an email to the rest of us about all the comments on the Amazon, the
On
recommendations
the
that people.
reviews, yeah. Which
Yeah.
plug for people, if you've read the book, please post a review on our Amazon or Goodreads. You can just search the site and add a review. It helps out. So anyway, that's my little interlude. Go ahead, Pat.
Thank you. It's hugely helpful to us. But one of the persons that wrote a newer review that I hadn't seen before was the writers really didn't bring their ego.
Ah,
And I don't know who wrote, well, I don't think one of us wrote it. No, but, I don't know who wrote that, but that was what I thought was really cool, was I didn't see a writer with an ego. Right? I mean, everybody just wanted to do a good book.
right.
Yeah.
There wasn't anybody saying, I'm so and so, and this, come to my standards or some ridiculousness like that. Everybody just did the best job they could, and it was beautiful.
Yeah.
It really worked. I mean, I know I'm a fan of the book, and I love saying that I love this book because I wrote so little of it that it's not like I'm patting myself on the back. But it really, and I think Robert, you joining the group is the best proof of what was the motivation of this book. Here's a guy who hasn't written a book before, except for Ronnie the Raincloud, which is a lovely book, but hasn't written an adult murder mystery thriller before,
Right.
and caught wind of what it was and said to himself, I'm thinking, I got some points to make. I got points to make about first responders. I want to say things about what happens in my day-to-day life. And here's
Right.
did that scratch an itch to be able to?
It did. It did. And also, you know, uh, I've dedicated my career to public safety. That's the world I live in. And when this opportunity presented itself, I thought, well, here's a new and different way to make a contribution. I spend my time helping people prepare to respond to disastrous events like this, and on occasion help them respond to the real thing. But this is an opportunity to work in the world of prevention, right? Let's, taking
Yeah.
action to reduce the risk. So I saw that as kind of a new and different opportunity.
I want to
Yeah.
ask you a dangerous question.
Uh-oh.
You ready for this? Outside of your own character, do you have a favorite character in the book, whether it's a major character or a secondary character?
I do, and actually, Pat's here. It's Emma, right?
Okay.
Um, and because she's a security guard, right?
Yeah.
So again, I've seen a lot of these characters, and they fall on the spectrum of nice, competent people. But Emma is a wonderful character that I could relate to, that I think we could all see examples of in real life. And as we learn in the book, she makes, a pretty significant contribution to this scenario as it plays out.
I thank you very much, by the way. That was very, very lovely to hear. But I didn't realize, we didn't know how the Emma part of the book was gonna work out.
Right.
And in some ways, we were trying to figure out who was going to take over this observer role. And everybody was like, well, it's going to have to be Emma. She's a security guard. And as the Emma author, I was like, I hadn't planned to write that role, just like I guess you hadn't planned to write yours at all. And and I don't think I could have written Emma without you, Robert, because I didn't know anything about being a security guard. And so I think that was a lot of the overlap of us working as a team was, okay, Emma's going to need to step into these shoes, but we're not going to make Emma step into them alone. We're going to help Pat get Emma into those shoes, and even at the very end, when it seemed as though there wasn't for our editor at the publisher, there wasn't enough closure, which we as authors went around and around, did we have enough closure? And then I don't remember who came up with the idea, maybe it was Sherry, to have a final news story about the event.
Yeah, I think that was my idea, but I'm not
Oh,
sure.
well, so yeah, I knew it wasn't mine. I couldn't, but we were all brainstorming, so that was
Yeah.
another good idea, Robert. And then I thought, well, it wasn't my idea, but I write news stories for a living, so I could write the news story because I have as much information, or actually way more information than I do as a reporter. So I'll just write the news story,
Uh-huh.
So the different opportunities we had to be inspired and then answer that call.
Right. I
And
need to correct the record, though. I'm incorrect. You wrote this news story, and it wasn't my idea. The news conference
Oh, there you
was my
go.
idea.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
well, that was also a great idea. Yeah. But
So
yeah, so you'll see all these aspects of
yeah,
the
there you
after.
go.
Yeah.
So Robert, because we're getting close on the end of time,
Yes.
what's your hope for the book? What do you hope this book is able to accomplish?
Um, I think I share the hope that the rest of the team does with this, and it's that to stimulate discussion, and to result in action, not to get too deeply, but we kicked around initially in our discussions of this book, thoughts and prayers. Well, I think we all share the fact that thoughts are important and prayers are critically important. But, and Matthew, I'm going to bow to your expertise in this. I think there's some place in the Bible where
Yeah.
where there's a statement that faith
without
without action is
works.
dead. Yeah,
Yeah, faith
right.
without works is dead. It's in James. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I think our objective is to finish the job,
Yeah.
result in action, come to consensus, and make a difference. Get people talking about this and unified on it, and see if we can't coalesce and get some action to improve our situation on gun safety and gun violence.
Pat, do you have any last questions for Robert?
No, I mean, you're okay. I guess I do. You're one of the people who had toyed with a sequel. Do you think there should be a sequel?
Um, I don't, if there's a sequel, I don't think it should be a mass shooting sequel.
Yeah.
I think it's either the life of the characters after this event, or a new and different event. I'm prejudiced that I like my character Stephen Bradley, and maybe Stephen shows up at the next big crisis with a whole different set of characters. But my initial feeling is that this mass shooting in this town, we've made our point, and other than perhaps looking at the lives of those involved and how they may have changed, I think that would be the only path I see to maybe a sequel.
Right.
I think Steve Bradley living again would be a fun idea. It's fun you're one of the few people who made it through.
Right,
There
that's
you
right.
go.
Well, I had an idea that Emma may go to work for him, so we'll
Oh,
have
there
to
you
talk
go.
about that.
There you go. Good. Well, Robert, thank you very much for taking some time with us. Pat, it's always a pleasure. Thank you both for taking this time to just give some author insight and share a little bit about our thought processes, our feelings, and what we've hoped to accomplish with this book. And so, folks, again, if you are interested in getting the book, there's some libraries in certain places that have it. You can always support your local library. Or even request it from a library, and they may pick it up. They may add it to the shelves. The other places that you can get it are on Amazon, on Goodreads. If you go to Sunbury, what's the address? It's
Sunbury Press, isn't it? SunburyPress.com.
I think
Also,
so.
any place that sells books, Target,
Right.
Walmart, if you want to go to a power retailer, but then we also love our little local whistle stop.
Right.
And you can go to AmericanRoulette.vip if you want links to that.
Right. And as a reminder, all of the proceeds of the book do not go to us authors. We are not getting rich off of this. We are not making any money off of this. In fact, all of it goes to organizations that are addressing gun violence. I think that's just a really important point, that we're doing this because this is an important issue. This is our way of contributing to the conversation, in the hope of actually getting some kind of resolution so that we don't have these type of events going forward. I'm just trying to think, is there any other announcements that we want to give while we've got this moment?
I think we'll have a big announcement by the next one. I
There
don't
we
know who
go.
our next interviewee is going to be, but we should have a big announcement by the next interview. So
Thank you for I wasn't sure how we wanted to handle that. So that's good. Yes, we do have a big announcement coming out. We're just not quite ready to make
yeah,
that announcement.
so keep watching these.
That's right.
That's a
That's
good
right.
tease.
Absolutely. So with that, again, if you've read the book, please put reviews in the review section of Amazon, on Goodreads, anywhere else that you have access to. Those are really helpful. And share the book. It's great for book discussions. We're actually in the process of getting some books into classrooms as well. So there's lots of opportunities. There's opportunities for different styles of writing, as we've talked about in the past, where 8 people writing 8 characters plus 2 other folks who are helping out, collaborating, and not doing an anthology in a traditional sense, but writing stories that all come together as one story. Lots of opportunity in that way. the book can be utilized in a ton of different ways. And so that's the big thing, is we want to get that book out, and we need your help to do that. So if you've got other folks that we can get the book into their hands, please let us know. You can contact us. We'll have the links in the video, in the comment section of the video. And that's about it. So with that, we thank you very much, and we hope you have a great day.